All right, so today we're diving deep into something pretty, pretty complex and honestly a little disheartening.
Yeah.
The U.S. has pulled out of the Paris Climate Accord again for
Yeah.
a second time. And we've got some excerpts from a news article that really breaks down the announcement and all the reactions.
Right.
But I think the thing that's really standing out to me, at least initially, is that this second exit is causing a much bigger stir than the first time around.
I think that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, when the U.S. first withdrew back in 2017,
Right.
it was still sort of early days for the Paris Agreement.
Mhm.
Countries hadn't really started implementing their commitments yet.
Right.
But now we're in a totally different landscape.
Yeah.
Nations are actively working to meet their targets.
Right.
So this move, now
It feels way more disruptive.
it feels like a bigger deal this time.
Absolutely.
So let's get into the why of it all. This article makes it pretty clear that President Trump's reasoning for pulling out is basically the same as before.
He wants to boost U.S. oil and gas production and achieve what he calls energy dominance.
Right, and that idea of energy dominance, it's really central to his thinking here.
Okay, so what does that actually mean, though?
Well, on the surface, it's about producing a ton of oil and gas,
Right.
but it goes deeper than that.
Oh.
It's about controlling the global energy market,
Oh, I see.
wielding that power in international relations.
Interesting.
It's like going back to a foreign policy that's very much focused on resources.
Like a throwback.
Yeah, exactly.
And this drill baby drill approach.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of industry leaders are thrilled about it. They see it as a really favorable environment.
Of course.
But for a lot of others, this is a huge red flag.
Definitely.
Like, what does this mean for the future of the Paris Agreement as a whole?
Yeah, that's the big question.
So maybe we should back up for a second, remind everyone what the core goals of the Paris Agreement actually are.
Absolutely. So, in a nutshell, the Paris Agreement is all about limiting global warming, keeping it well below 2 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels, and ideally aiming for 1.5 degrees.
And that's not just some random number, right?
No, not at all.
There's science behind that.
Exactly. It's based on a ton of scientific research.
Yeah.
It's about avoiding these irreversible tipping points in the climate system.
Right.
Beyond those points, we're talking catastrophic impacts.
And if we go over that 1.5 degree target,
Yeah.
there are real consequences for people everywhere.
Absolutely. We're talking about things like rising sea levels,
Right.
more frequent and intense flooding. Coastal communities are going to be hit hard.
Yeah.
And then in other regions, droughts and food shortages become even worse,
Right.
leading to mass migrations and social unrest. It's a global issue.
So with all of that in mind, it's really hard to understand why the U.S. would back out. I mean, we're the second biggest greenhouse gas emitters in the world.
Yeah, I mean, the administration's main argument is about economic competitiveness.
Yeah.
They're saying that sticking with the agreement would hurt the U.S. economy,
Right.
put us at a disadvantage.
Stifle job creation, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But didn't President Biden before this wholeheartedly support the Paris Agreement?
He did.
He was all about moving away from fossil fuels.
Absolutely. The Biden administration really pushed for a major shift towards renewable energy.
Right.
They were all about the economic potential of green technologies and building new infrastructure.
So it's almost like we're going back and forth,
Yeah,
which is confusing for everyone involved.
definitely. It creates a lot of uncertainty, not just here in the U.S.,
Right.
but globally, too.
So on the world stage,
Hmm.
what message does this really send?
Well, it definitely weakens trust in the U.S. commitment to climate action.
Yeah.
And it might even embolden other countries that were already on the fence about their own commitments.
So this withdrawal happening now during the implementation phase of the Paris Agreement,
Yeah.
it really could have huge ripple effects.
It definitely could, you know. Countries are already trying to figure out this transition to cleaner energy, balancing economic growth with sustainability, and this just throws a wrench in the works.
Another hurdle.
Exactly. And the Paris Agreement, it relies on global cooperation.
Mhm.
Everyone needs to be on board if we're going to achieve those goals.
And it's not like this transition is easy,
No, it's definitely a challenge.
especially economically.
Yeah, we're talking about a massive shift.
Right.
Investing in renewable energy infrastructure, modernizing the grid, supporting research and development.
It's a big undertaking.
It is, but it also presents huge economic opportunities.
Okay.
New industries, new jobs, but there are concerns about what happens to workers in the fossil fuel industry.
Right.
We need to make sure they have pathways to new careers.
Retraining programs, things like
Yeah,
that.
exactly.
So where do we go from here? I
Yeah.
mean, if the U.S. isn't going to be a leader in this, who will step up?
That's the million-dollar question.
It is.
The U.S. pulling out is a huge setback. There's no denying that.
Yeah.
But there are other countries doing really impressive things.
Like who?
Well, the European Union, for example. Okay.
They're making a lot of progress with renewable energy
Yeah.
and sustainable development policies.
So there's still hope.
There is absolutely. We're seeing individuals, businesses, organizations all over the world stepping up.
Really?
Committing to sustainability, investing in renewables, reducing their carbon footprints. It's a movement.
So it sounds like even though this is a major development,
It is.
the fight against climate change isn't over.
Not at all.
It's more important than ever for everyone to get involved.
I completely agree.
And I think that's what we really want listeners to take away from this.
Yeah.
The U.S. pulling out of the Paris Agreement, it's a big deal. It has global consequences, but it doesn't mean the end of the road.
Right.
So the question for you is, what role can you play?
Yeah.
How can you, as an individual, a business, a community, contribute to a sustainable future?
That's what we need to be thinking about.
Because the answer might surprise you.
It might.
There's a lot of power in collective action.
Absolutely.
And that's what's going to drive change. Couldn't agree more.
So stay informed, stay engaged, and let's keep pushing for a better future.
I'm with you on that.
Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll be back with more soon.
Until next time.